All right. Welcome to the Life of a Marketer podcast. And today I am privileged to have a guest that has background in PR, public relations. And also she has worked quite a bit as an outsourced CMO from what I've understand. But I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Tell us about what you do. Tell us about who you are and welcome to Life of a Marketer podcast.
Thanks, Jared. It's good to be here. I'm Cortney Galster. I am the president and founder of Amplify Marketing, which is a digital marketing agency based in Minnesota. Also a digital entrepreneur. My husband and I my husband's always been an entrepreneur with small businesses, and we kind of start, grow, and sell businesses outside of the marketing industry as well. But my kind of core bread and butter knowledge base is definitely in marketing and PR. And we work with small to mid-sized businesses to help them set up strategic, scalable marketing plans.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit more about that. What small to medium sized businesses can you dial that down a little bit? Who exactly have you been working with over the years?
We work, it's definitely ranged over the years in size, but our sweet spot is working with businesses with an annual revenue of 1 to 25 million a year. And we are able to kind of scale our ability to serve them based on their specific needs. So we work heavily in professional services. We don't do a lot of CPG. It's a lot of really strategic development and then execution and accountability. So helping them stay on track with the plan and not go wild with things that are outside of the plan, really trying to focus in on the things that make an impact for them, implement them well, and then track how they're performing so that we can adjust as needed by either scaling up on tactics, scaling back, or even getting rid of tactics and replacing them completely. So we lean heavily on strategy. We come in to really directly support the sales process, which makes us a little bit different. Typically in small to mid-sized businesses, there's not a huge marketing budget available. So we need to really try to maximize every dollar that they have
Mhm.
and be really strategic about how they're selling and what we can do on the marketing side to support the sales cycle, as opposed to coming in with the hottest and greatest marketing tactics that they could be implementing, but maybe won't make a huge impact because they just don't sell in a way that would incorporate those tactics.
Oh, interesting. That's interesting. So, I want to ask you some questions about PR because if that's okay, it's a
Yeah.
field that I don't know a whole lot about. How can a small to medium sized business use PR type strategies to help them grow their business?
I think it depends really heavily on what the business is. There are certain businesses that really benefit from PR, and there's certain businesses that don't. Like healthcare, really depends on what side of the healthcare spectrum they're on. Like if you're a startup, then yeah, PR is great for you. But if you are, if you're on the physician or the clinic side, it may or may not be beneficial in terms of where you're spending your time and your marketing dollars. But I do think that there's ways for a lot of different small to mid-sized businesses to leverage PR. Mostly, I would say focusing on some of that organic earned PR. Help a reporter out is a great way that I always recommend, especially for companies that are trying to do it on their own and don't know where to start. It can be a great way to start getting some publicity without having to put a ton of effort into seeking out the opportunities themselves.
Mhm.
The other thing that I always recommend is choosing a pitching schedule. So pitching for PR is never one and done. It's always, I say this a lot about a lot of different tactics, but it's the squeaky wheel that wins. And so the follow up, the fortune's in the follow up, right? Like you always have to be following up when you put a pitch out there, but you also need to be strategic about what you're pitching. It needs to be interesting and newsworthy, or you're never going to get picked up. The other component of PR is relationships. And so looking for where you want placements and finding ways to connect with those reporters, staying in front of them, liking and commenting on their content on social media, just being really visible so that your company looks more visible is a great place to start, so that when you do have something newsworthy, there's more of a connection there when you're pitching. They have context as to who you are. And the other option would be to actually hire a PR agency that just, there's different layers, there's different levels of PR. So
Mhm.
the type of PR that we do for our clients is more of that base level, where we're leveraging relationships that we have and we're pitching and coming up with a strategy for pitching really heavily locally, typically, sometimes nationally. But there are some instances where a more robust strategy is important. And that means finding blogs that would be a good fit for the type of content that you share.
Mhm. Mhm.
Looking for paid opportunities where you can place stories or create native content that goes in different publications. And if you're going to go really heavily into that space where you're, looking to pitch 100 blogs a week, or you're looking to go after the USA Today's, the national stage of publicity with NBC or ABC, you probably need to work with a agency that has that breadth and has those connections on the national stage. You can certainly get there by building with those local stories and then building to that point where you're pitching yourself on those national shows, or your agency is, but it's harder to do on your own if you have a really quick turnaround timeline on when you need those placements done, or if you just don't want to do any of the heavy lifting, because it is a lot of work to get those placements live.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Wow, that's like a whole area that I know absolutely nothing about. It's interesting. That's something that I definitely need to explore more, learn more of the benefits of public relations. But moving on to kind of the other side, I'll just take in it. For example, let's say that you're going to work with. Give me a business that a kind of business that you've worked with in the past. Maybe tell us what you did with that.
We work really heavily in professional services. So we work in healthcare, we work in legal, we work in with a lot of like CPA firms, financial advisors. And what we do really depends on the size of the business and the staffing that they have. So for some clients, I recommend a really contained 5-step process because they just don't have the budget to constantly be creating new content or constantly be exploring new marketing tactics. What they really need is just consistency in what they're doing. And truly, consistency is the key to anything with any of our clients. So if we can't be consistent with it, it's not worth putting the money into creating it. But I oftentimes will recommend just a simple, like 5-tactic plan. And essentially the tactics are less important than the consistency of implementation, but having them choose 5 things that they know that they can implement consistently from a sales and marketing perspective, usually mixing that up with 3 marketing tactics and 2 tactics that are more directly supporting the sales cycle. That gives them a really good mix. It makes them feel like they're making progress, and they are making progress. But it also is it's not overwhelming. So if you have 5 tactics that you're implementing the next 6 months, and you know that every week you're going to post on LinkedIn is huge because we work in professional services.
Mhm.
So every week you're going to post on LinkedIn 2 times, and every day, 5 days a week, you're going to log into LinkedIn and you're going to like and comment on other people's content. I talk a lot about that with our clients because that's an easy win that they can make for themselves. So that might be 2 of the tactics right there, is that they're going to post and then they're going to engage. It could be that they're going to send out a monthly newsletter. It could be that they're going to cold call 50 people in their sphere once a week. And then, that 5th tactic could be something more like business development focused, or it could be something that's more marketing focused, like hosting an event once a quarter or something like that.
Mhm.
But reining them in is really the most important thing, and saying, okay, let's be realistic. Like there's all of these things that we can do. I just did a strategy session with a financial firm yesterday, and we came up with all of these awesome ideas of things that they could do. And then we went back through and we prioritized, okay, what's realistic that we can actually accomplish between now and the end of the year? And what's a realistic bandwidth for you guys for every month of 2023? We're really looking at an 18 to 24 month plan with what we pulled together, not a 12-month plan. And so really helping them set the stage for realistic expectations and understanding their bandwidth and the cost of implementing different tactics is helpful.
Wow. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Those are all kind of things that businesses take for granted. A lot of you take for granted, as working with a marketing agency, that businesses will have these things in place, and but most of the time they actually don't. Some basic fundamentals.
Yeah,
I think that's good.
and a lot of people think that they need this very robust marketing plan when really what they need is someone to just be in charge of it. They need someone to come in and say, okay, here's the plan. We're just going to stick to the plan. We're not going to take on like, here is what we have bandwidth for. We don't have bandwidth for all of these extra things. And we're going to plan, and we're going to do this in a way where we can be ahead of schedule on projects. So it's not a scramble or a fire at the last minute. Just doing that and getting that consistency. Because if you do it the other way, where you're kind of just shiny red objecting your way through marketing, you don't ever build that consistency, which makes it really hard to build trust with the audience that you're networking with. And you never really build traction because you feel like you're not making any progress, and then you lose interest in implementing. And oftentimes with small to mid-sized business owners, when they get busy, marketing is the first thing that falls off of their plate. And that's why they see in professional services, especially, you kind of see revenue without consistent sales and marketing. It looks like a roller coaster when you look at someone's balance sheet. And the reason is because sales and marketing is the first thing that falls off of their plate when they get busy. And so what I always tell clients is that what we do today is really, depending on the industry, it's generating business for 90 days from now. It's generating business for 6 months from now, or even a year from now. And I even had a client last week tell me that business that she started nurturing 6 years ago just came to fruition. So depending on how long their sales cycle is, you're setting them up for long-term success as their marketer. And so that consistency really plays a role in keeping the conversation going and keeping that trust factor really consistent, and also just staying front of mind.
Very good. All right. Thanks for sharing that. And changing gears a little bit. Next question. What is the best thing about working in marketing?
The best thing about working in marketing, I would say, I left the traditional agency world in 2014. And so since I left, I would say the best thing is, having the flexibility, working for myself, having the flexibility to work from home, be around and balance my life a little bit better. The industries that we work in intentionally are not high fire. They're not high fire industries. So there's not a lot of like crisis PR. It's pretty rare that there's last minute requests that are coming in and whatnot. So, I mean, those are some of the things that I think of in terms of building a business in marketing that have made a big impact for me. It is high touch, like it is highly client facing, even if you do work from home and you're just on Zoom. So you do still get, some of that Zoom fatigue and that conversational fatigue at the end of the day, if you have a lot of those types of meetings going on.
All right. Awesome. All right. Next question is, what sort of advice do you offer to those that are in the marketing industry right now?
If you're in the marketing industry, I would say specialize in something specific. I would find a niche within marketing that you can be really great at, especially if you want to leave the traditional agency world and go into business for yourself. There's a lot of need for really specific skill sets. And I see a lot of companies outsourcing to contractors, freelancers, and small agencies, really specific needs. So like TikTok is one that is huge and growing. Funnels are another. understanding how to set up like course websites. That's another really big opportunity space that I only see growing in the next couple of years. Even social media in general, just becoming more of like a really robust social media manager has a lot of opportunity if you're able to take on clients that are looking for like that full scale management and not just looking for content month to month, but really looking for someone to partner with that will help them scale and grow. So really honing in on a particular skill set and using that as an opportunity to pivot into freelance or contractor work. I read a study a couple of weeks ago that most jobs, 37% of jobs by the end of I think it was 2027, are expected to be either fully contract or freelance. So, if you think about that in terms of professional services like marketing, where we have an industry that is easily outsourced, the likelihood that there will be more opportunity in the outsourced market than in the in-house market is pretty high. And so skilling yourself, upskilling yourself so that you could meet that demand and do something that you really like and enjoy. There's huge opportunities there.
Right. Awesome. That was good advice. All right. So, what other successful people in marketing that are kind of like yourself would you like to acknowledge on this podcast that you think should be on this podcast?
We have built, there's a couple of people that I think are amazing in marketing. One person is Kelly Stroop, who she just changed roles. She's with a course creation company now. But I met her early on in her career and she's super creative. She's super fun. She's always looking for new ways to market. And so I always know like if she's implementing something for her day job or for herself online, that it's probably a great opportunity for us to investigate for our clients. She's amazing. And then we always refer out a videographer company, Joe Kessler or Kessler Productions. Joe Kessler is the owner of that. And he is fantastic. He does incredible videography work that really tells a story. And I think if you are able to afford a real videographer or a videographer company to come in and produce your story or produce your client testimonials, oh my gosh, does it level up your brand? It's expensive. It's for sure expensive, but he does such a fantastic job.
Oh, that's good to know. Good to know. We do a lot of YouTube ads, so that's
okay. Awesome.
That's a good reference. Thanks for sharing that. All right. So one final question, fun question. Tell me the oldest technology that you remember using.
The oldest. Well, probably the oldest would be like the big old clunky Dell computers from the 90s. But I had one of those original Nokia phones in the 90s, late 90s, when I was 15 or 16. I think I got my first phone. You couldn't do anything on it. My kids sit here with tablets and, they know how to navigate my smartphone better than me.
It was one of those bricks, like
yes,
it would break the glass on your table.
My mom actually had one of those original car phones that you had to plug into your cigarette lighter, and they were like huge. I mean, maybe
like a
12
case,
by
right?
12. Yeah, a case that you left on the floor of your car, and we thought that was so cool that my mom had a cell phone in her minivan. You couldn't use it because it was so expensive to call anyone, but she had one.
Yeah. My kids, I tell them, like there was a time when I was growing up, there were no cell phones. And they're just like, what? How did people live with that?
I know. And now
my kids don't have a cell phone, but
do you guys have a home phone?
No, I don't give my kids a cell phone because they're little, so they're not ready.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but I have they grab my phone, they use it, they know how much I use it. It's just children have a fascination with technology always. So
we don't even have a house phone anymore. And it's just so bizarre to me when I go to my parents' house and they have their phone actually rings at the house. My mom doesn't really use her cell phone, but It's so funny how technology changes, and my kids are like, oh yeah, that's so old school. I'm like, it's not that old school. Like
Yeah.
we had a phone before you were born, like when my husband and I first got married. So
My wife is from Argentina. When growing up in Argentina, this is wild. So this is like in the 90s, 80s, early 90s. You had to the phones were state controlled. So your house
oh my
was
gosh, that's
worth
crazy.
more if you had a phone line. And it would take like a year or two to get a phone installed. It was very expensive. You probably had to bribe somebody to get it done.
That
So
is
so
crazy.
people didn't have phone just like into the early 90s, and then finally they privatized it. So for her, I imagine, I mean, she doesn't think about it, but the fact that there are cell phones, and now everybody in Argentina has a cell phone, have a smartphone
Yeah.
like we do. It's just it's interesting.
It's
So
crazy how technology really changes the world, you know?
it is. I love it though. I think everybody that's in marketing loves technology. That's every time I ask this question, everybody always says, the same thing. They like technology. So
Yeah. Well, this was great. Thanks for having me on.
sure. Thank you, Courtney, for we're gonna wrap it up now. We're kind of getting a little past what we like to do, but I really appreciate you being on the podcast. You can catch the Life of a Marketer podcast. We release it on YouTube, so you can subscribe there. We also will release it. We stream it on social media. So Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, you can find our episodes. Thanks. Like and subscribe. Give me some love with the algorithm, please. And have a great day, everybody. Thank you, Courtney.
Thanks.